Oh, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is Amelia Buwan from the College of Education, Department of Science and Mathematics Education, Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. I have to pose this question for everyone. When students graduate from your school system, what is essential for them to know and be able to do? What are those skills that we want to teach to our students? At the same time, I also ask this to my pre-service teachers. When students graduate from your school, from your future school, what is essential for them to know and be able to do? And most of their answers are life skills such as communication skills, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving. So, how do we support teachers in such a way that they could teach their future students on these life skills? So, student teaching is an internship program where they could implement what they've learned for 3 years in our university, and then how will they implement that in a real classroom. So when I attended the UP NISMA training I guess that was September 2014, I reflect on the challenges on internship because I found out that most of my students have difficulty on implementing a student-centered classroom. Most of their lessons are teacher-centered because they, they still need the skill on how to manage where, where students are in charge of their learning. So therefore, I reflect on the challenges of internship and think about how will I implement the things that I've learned in this training in UP NISMED, where I've learned about the approach, teaching through problem solving, and lesson study. So I incorporated the lesson study and teaching through problem solving in this topic when I discussed the current trends in teaching math. So I introduced to them what is teaching through problem solving and how lesson study would help them in implementing this approach in a classroom. We also have a workshop on how to develop assessment tools to support learners. And then during their internship, every week they have to go back to our university, and I mentor them on how to reflect on what happened in their classroom. So Oh, so after revising my syllabus, I conduct workshop with my pre-service teachers, and then to make it happen, therefore I need to plan ahead in such a way that I could establish a system where my student could implement lesson study during their internship. So therefore, I need to coordinate with DepEd on the school that my student teachers will be assigned. So with that, I asked the DepEd supervisor that they should be assigned in one school. So why do I need to do this? Because my student teachers will always have a question on how will I teach these essential skills? How will I teach critical thinking and problem solving in my class? So they found it very challenging to develop a lesson in such a way that uh, essential skills should be embedded in teaching math. So therefore, I need to I need to support them in such a way that they could implement on what we have done in our workshop. because literature says that teaching through problem solving develop critical thinking, communication and collaboration, problem solving, and self-direction. And these are essential skills that we need to teach to our students so that someday they could implement those important skills when they have a work, right? Okay, so we don't only teach math, but as well as life skills. So in implementing this approach, my student teachers express that it's very difficult for them, or it's very challenging for them to think about a problem that is interesting to students and suits the topic. And also, one student expressed that how will I design the process of the lesson such that it will take my student to think, rethink, or think even more, because they have experienced that in my class when I model a certain lesson, they think and rethink. So they were challenged on how will I write the procedure of my lesson in such a way that my students are thinking. And also to encourage thinking, critical thinking in our classroom, to establish the routine, teachers need to write a good question. So therefore, one student expressed that the challenges that they've met in writing a lesson is how to write a good question for students to think and answer. Another student also expressed that you need to anticipate the possible answers and questions of the students. And that's very difficult to do this alone, right? So therefore, we need a team to think about uh, a lesson, a student-centered lesson, where it helps students to learn those life skills. In such a way, if we do this, it improves learning outcome in our classroom. So we need a team, and the team composed of every team in my class composed of at least three teachers, at most of three teachers, most three teachers, not four, because when I before when I've assigned four teachers, I guess it's very difficult for them to implement one lesson. So at most three teachers in a team, and then um, they have to work with their cooperating teachers, ask on their opinion on their lesson plan, and then during their implementation, the supervising teacher, that's me, and the department head are the expert who will help them or who will give critical feedback in their implementation. So I guess you know this, that the lesson study process involved the three teachers will collaborate as well as their cooperating teachers will collaborate on thinking about the goal of their lesson plan. They have to plan a lesson, think about an activity that will push students to think, okay? Think about a good problem and a good question that will encourage students to reason out. So therefore, after that, they have to implement and observe what happened and then reflect on what are the challenges that they've met and what are the things to be improved in their implementation. So as what I have mentioned earlier, teacher one worked with two teachers, and then when the first teacher implement, the two teachers will observe. And actually, this is very challenging that you have to arrange with the cooperating teachers that they don't have to teach six sections. They will teach only at least at most four sections so that they will have vacant time to observe other teachers on their implementation. And then, so if the first teacher will implement, the two teachers will observe. After that, we will discuss on the implementation and implement it again to another section. Or it would be the second teacher who will implement the revision to another section. So as they do that, at the end of the implementation of the lesson, um, maybe at least 3 implementation, they could say that this lesson plan is the best plan in teaching maybe probability or other content, right? So during the post-lesson discussion, the question that we ask is for the teachers who implement the lesson, in which part of the lesson do you think the students learned? And then the teacher will reflect what happened and then think about on what went well and what are the challenges that she met during the implementation. And then for the critical friends, so that we could give a critic a good feedback that could help the student teacher to implement the lesson again. And they had to observe the following: in which part of the lesson were the students thinking, what question that the teacher asked or activity that the students do made them think. And then this is very important, in which part of the lesson did she find difficult to carry out? Because with this question, this is where the expert could suggest on what's the best thing to do during the second implementation. So with that, since the lesson is being implemented at least 3 classrooms, they found out what's the best way of teaching the content in such a way that students really learn and students really um, learn about how to solve problem and how to develop this critical thinking. Of course, critical thinking could not be developed in an hour. We should establish a system, a routine in our classroom. And this is the reflection of my student teachers. So in our lesson implementation, I really enjoyed asking questions. This is really amazing that student teachers enjoy now on asking questions, because he used this question on assessing their student, where and what they are, what have they learned during my discussion. So therefore, it's very clear with this input of my student teacher that she learned about how to embed assessment in her lesson. Okay, another is makes during the implementation of teaching through problem solving and with the support of the lesson study group, it makes the students think critically. So therefore, in the lesson study, it's more on observing the students. It's not more about the teacher. So if teachers had a habit on thinking about what happened to the students, so therefore every time we reflect, we always think about how do we improve how we teach in such a way that the outcome is uh, it's an achievement. Students learn those important skills in our classroom. Okay, another one is I can assess their knowledge, rate their answers, and know if they're advanced or needs attention so that I can explain the topic further. Okay, another one is what I like most in the implementation. The lesson using teaching through problem solving is the interaction between the teacher and the students. Students